The first step for the poetry analysis essay is to read the prompt. Now, I've done that, and I know that this is a Robert Frost poem about somebody who is growing sleepy as he's picking apples, and that I need to analyze how Frost uses poetic elements and techniques to express the speaker's experience and thoughts. So now that I know that the prompt is about this character's experience and thoughts, that's what I'm going to read for. I'm not reading for fun. This is not something I would teach to my students or read as a student or read at home for pleasure. I'm reading it in the context of a standardized test. I have 40 minutes. I've got to move quickly. Now, I think a lot of people freak out when they get to poetry because we've made up this myth that poetry is completely impossible to understand. It's not. What you do is you start with the literal meaning of the passage and take baby steps from there. I'm going to walk you through how to do this. So here's what the poem says. It's called After Apple Picking. I always like to read the title. Sometimes the title really reveals something important. I remember when I was in AP English Literature in high school, we had a passage about this mother kicking her child out of her house. And my classmates and I, we started making this incredible interpretation about how terrible this mother was for kicking her child out the front door. And then we were reminded that the title of the poem was From the Author to Her Book. Which then changed the meaning of the poem. It wasn't about a mother kicking her child out the door. It was an author kicking this book that she was writing out the door. And so the title sometimes is very revealing. Here it says that it's after apple picking. So the event has taken place, or at least the picking has taken place. And so I'm in that time frame. So it says after apple picking. Now let's read the poem. It says, my long two-pointed ladder's sticking through a tree toward heaven still, and there's a barrel that I didn't fill beside it, and there may be 2 or 3 apples I didn't pick upon some bough. Okay, I don't know about you, but I didn't get anything out of that. I don't know what it was saying. So what I'm going to do is rather than try to read the whole thing, I mean, you can, if this is short enough, you could read the whole thing and try to get a general view. I'm going to try to do a quick just translation of this sentence so I know how to enter into this poem. So I'll walk through this piece by piece. It says, my long two-pointed ladders, I don't know what a two-pointed ladder is, but it's a ladder, is sticking through a tree toward heaven. So I got a ladder and it's pointed up towards heaven, okay? And there's a barrel that I didn't fill. So a barrel may be where he'd be putting the apples. I'm just actually focusing on the objects. I know what a ladder is, and I know what a barrel is, and I know where heaven is, I think. And then it says, beside it, there may be 2 or 3 apples I didn't pick upon some bough. So there's this work he didn't do. Now I'm ready to start really moving through. Notice I did not bother myself with two-pointed ladders. I didn't care about his poetry speak. I get it. There's a guy, it's a ladder, it's a barrel, it's apples. Things are pointing up. Okay. Then we get line 6. But I am done with apple picking now. Well, that was an easy one. He stopped apple picking. I got that from the title. Essence of winter sleep is on the night. The scent of apples I am drowsing off. So I knew that already. No, he's falling asleep. He's done with apple picking. I cannot rub the strangeness from my sight I got from looking through a pane of glass. I skimmed this morning from the drinking trough and held against the world of hoary grass. So I cannot rub the strangeness from my sight. Something was weird looking. I got from looking through a pane of glass. So he was looking through a window. I skimmed from this morning from the drinking trough and held against the world of hoary grass. So honestly, I don't actually know exactly what that means yet. So I'm going to leave this. This is a huge mistake people make. They start reading a poem, they get tangled in lines 9, 10, 11, they give up, and then they start making stuff up or they run to the other essay. Don't give up just when you don't understand a line, right? Don't be a quitter. Let's go to line 14 here. 13. It melted and I let it fall and break. I'm not sure what the it is, what the it is that melted, but something melted. It fell and broke. Okay. But I was well upon my way to sleep before it fell, and I could tell what form my dreaming was about to take. So again, this thing that fell, he was on his way to sleeping. I'm going to keep moving through. This is my first pass through. I don't need to, again, get tangled in the weeds of all this. Magnified apples, line 18, appear and disappear, stem end and blossom end, and every fleck of russet showing clear. My instep arch not only keeps the ache, it keeps the pressure of a ladder round. I feel the ladder sway as the boughs bend. Instep arch, that's his foot, hurts. Okay, so something about his experience is some pain and pressure. Okay, I'm just getting the headline here to understand what's going on. Line 24, and I keep hearing from the cellar bin the rumbling sound of load on load of apples coming in. So apples are coming into some cellar bin. You ever heard that sound of apples bouncing around in the supermarket or on your kitchen counter, or if you've ever gone apple picking? Okay, I think I know what he's talking about, this rumbling sound. Line 27, for I have had too much of apple picking. So he's sick of it. I am overtired, not just regular tired, overtired. Of the great harvest I myself desired. He's sick of doing this. So this is a key part of his experience. He's like run out of gas. He doesn't care anymore. Line 30, there were 10,000 fruit to touch, cherish in hand, lift down, and not let fall. So lots of fruit. Line 32, for all that struck the earth, no matter if not bruised or spiked with stubble, went surely to the cider apple heap, as of no worth. So for all that struck the earth, these are apples that fell on the ground, and then they would end up in the cider apple heap. So the ugly apples that fell go into the cider heap and are of no worth. Notice what I'm focusing on here. How many similes and metaphors have I identified? Am I trying to show off automatopoeia and all these alliterations and rhyme schemes? No, I'm focusing literally on what happened, and I'm really paying attention to what this prompt is about. This guy's experiences picking apples and complaining about it and his foot and everything else. So do this. Stay inside the literal meaning of the poem first, and you have a way in. Don't give up when it gets difficult. Don't make up rules for yourself or even a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm not good at poetry. I don't understand this. That's not a great way to start this prompt. Start by believing that you can do it, and by translating really basic things, that apples fell and they're in line 36, they're of no worth. Let's go to the end of it. It says, one can see what will trouble this sleep of mine, whatever sleep it is. Were he not gone, the woodchuck could say whether it's like his long sleep as I describe its coming on, or just some human sleep. Just when I was saying it was all easy. Okay, so were he not gone, the he is the woodchuck, so who is, I'm guessing, like the animal, like how much wood could a woodchuck chuck animal, could say whether it's like his long sleep as I describe it coming on, or just some human sleep. So I have woodchuck sleep, whatever that is, and I got my regular human sleep, and he's debating about this. So I have just finished my first reading of the poem. The things that I've highlighted here are just cues that help me understand the plot. I haven't yet got the evidence that I'm going to need. So another mistake people might make is you've read this, you think you understand it. It's a guy picking apples, falling asleep, his foot hurts, does he sleep like the woodchuck? Nobody knows. Now we have the problem of, wait a second, we're not ready to write an essay or start working with evidence because we haven't read for evidence yet. And that's the next step. I need to read for evidence that's actually going to help me. So I'm going to take a second here and just clear this away and come back to the poem and look for specific, what did the prompt say? It said specific elements and techniques to express the speaker's experience and thoughts as he feels himself falling asleep. So now let's go back through the poem and look for specific elements and techniques that we can identify. Okay, my long two-pointed ladder's sticking through a tree toward heaven still, and there's a barrel that I didn't fill. Beside it, and there may be two or three. So I did notice the rhyme scheme here. So tree and three, still and fill. So I'll mark this because this is something I could talk about. It creates a nice little rhythm to the poem. Apples I didn't pick upon some bough, but I am done with apple picking now. So I like this short sentence here. Line 6 is a single sentence, almost like it's in a prose paragraph. This breaks the flow of the poem. And even if I don't necessarily have a great explanation of how that helps Frost get the job done, I've identified it at this stage, so I have something I could talk about. So I could talk about a short, simple sentence. Now, one thing I could do here as well, and I don't have a lot of room, is I could try to explain how. I could start a sentence about how this sentence is used, but for now I'm just going to leave it and keep moving. Essence of winter sleep is on the night. That's kind of a backward sentence. The scent of apples, I am drowsing off. I cannot rub the strangeness from my sight I got from looking through a pane of glass. I skimmed this morning from the drinking trough and held against the world of hoary grass. So I'm just going to mark off more of this rhyming. It's very interesting. Grass and glass. Let's see. Trough. Well, I see fell and tell. But I was well upon my way to sleep before it fell, and I could tell what form my dreaming was about to take. Break and take. So with the rhyme scheme, my goal isn't to just identify A, B, 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 A, C, D, D, rhyme scheme, and name it. My goal is to look at how does that rhyme scheme change the experience of the poem, help convey what Frost is trying to convey. So I'm not sure yet, but I'll keep reading. And notice I'm doing a second full read here, and I've got to move quickly. I'm going very slowly here as I'm talking my way through, but the clock is on. You've got 40 minutes to write this essay. Magnified apples appear and disappear, stem end and blossom end, and every fleck of russet showing clear. Do I notice any alliteration or any sounds? There's a nice kind of rhythm to this. Fleck of russet showing clear, instep arch, not only keeps the ache, it keeps the pressure of a ladder round. I don't see it yet, but I feel like it was in here, so I'll keep my eyes open for it. There's a lot of very self-conscious I statements. I am this and I am this, and that repetition does keep me focused on his experience. It's a very strong first-person narrator, right, who is revealing his thoughts. And he's repeating over and over again what he's experienced. He's almost confessing to us what it's like to be him. And maybe there's something in the way that that's structured that Frost achieves this experience of someone who's feeling exhausted. Okay, so lines 25 through 30. I do notice this beginning of, right? So something like an anaphora, the beginning of a repetition of each phrase there. I don't know what 10,000 is, but there's some really emphatic emphasis of the repetition. And I would be curious about why the lines shorten here. So these varying lengths of the lines. There's no stanzas, it's all one stanza. So I'll mark that down as well. Notice what I'm doing right now. This isn't necessarily all cohering in some grand thesis. These are a collection of observations, so I have something to grab onto when I start putting my thesis together. Line 35, went surely to the cider apple heap as of no worth. One can see what will trouble this sleep of mine, whatever sleep is. So he's several times brought up this issue of what sleep actually is. Is it human sleep? Is it the woodchuck sleep? This sleep of mine. So now I'm at the end of the poem. I'm in the last few lines, and I want to zoom out now. I've got a sense this is somebody who's falling asleep. At one point in line 17, he says he's dreaming. We get this sense that there's apples falling, that things are of no worth. There's something about giving up, of life itself maybe not being valuable, or our labor being in vain. There's some broader theme. As I write my thesis, I'm going to be thinking more about this, but I've identified a number of devices and techniques that at least I was able to observe as concrete things that Robert Frost does. So here's what I want you to do. When you're reading the poem, you got to move quickly, read for its literal meaning, but then look for things that you can describe about your own experience of reading the poem. Don't necessarily plug it into, oh, this is all, fill in the blank. It's all some scheme about class or warfare, right? Focus on your experience inside the poem, what you feel the author doing that you can talk about, so that when you're writing your essay, you don't feel like you're making stuff up. And with that, you're set to begin working on your thesis.